I never should have gone back to Forest Grove. But 3 weeks ago, I heard the sound again, and now I can't stop thinking about what we really found out there in 2016. What we covered up. What's coming back. You probably heard about the Forest Grove sound if you were online 9 years ago. Small Oregon town, mysterious noise, people going crazy trying to find the source. The media made it seem cute, like some quirky Pacific Northwest mystery. They said it stopped on its own. They said it was probably just a broken air conditioner. They lied. If you've never been to Forest Grove, it sits right at the edge of everything. Portland's sprawl reaches out like fingers through the valley, and Forest Grove is the last knuckle before the wild country begins. Past Gales Creek Road, where most people heard the sound, there's nothing but logging cuts and deer trails and the kind of deep forest silence that makes you understand why people used to believe in things that lived in the woods. I was a senior at Pacific University when it started. February 15th, 2016. I remember the exact date because it was the night before my organic chemistry midterm, and I was cramming in the library when my phone started buzzing. Text after text. Do you hear that? What the hell is that noise? Something's wrong in town. By the time I got outside, half the campus was standing in the quad, looking up at the sky like we expected to see something. The sound was... God, how do you describe it? Like a giant tuning fork struck somewhere in the darkness. A single, pure note that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. It made your teeth ache, made your chest tight, made you want to run, but you couldn't tell which direction to run to get away from it. But here's what nobody talked about afterward. What didn't make it into any of those news stories. The sound wasn't just a sound. There was something underneath it, something you felt more than heard. A pulse, a rhythm, like a heartbeat, but wrong. Too slow, then too fast. Like whatever was making it was learning how heartbeats were supposed to work. Please, if you're from Forest Grove, if you were there in 2016, hit that like button and let me know in the comments what you remember. Because I'm starting to think some of us heard more than we admitted, even to ourselves. The official story says the sound lasted about 2 weeks. That's not true. It lasted exactly 13 days, and I know because I was part of the group that tracked it. 7 of us from the physics program, led by this grad student named Marcus, who had all kinds of recording equipment. We called ourselves the Sound Hunters, thinking we were so clever, so scientific. We were going to solve the mystery, maybe get our 15 minutes of fame. Marcus set up monitoring stations all around town. Gales Creek Road, the old mill site, 3 spots on campus, even one out past the Clear Creek Reservoir. What we found should have been impossible. The sound wasn't coming from any single location. It was coming from all of them, simultaneously. But the frequency was different at each spot. Like something was broadcasting on multiple channels at once, creating a harmony that shouldn't exist. On day 3, Marcus made a discovery that changed everything. When he analyzed the recordings, he found something embedded in the sound. A pattern, repeating every 47.3 seconds. It wasn't random electrical interference. It was structured, intentional. It was trying to communicate. That's when Sarah joined us. Sarah Hendricks, a linguistics major who'd been following our posts on the university forum. She was small and quiet, with these intense green eyes that seemed to see things the rest of us missed. When Marcus played her the pattern isolated from the background sound, she went completely still for almost a minute. "It's not human," she whispered finally. "But it's not random either. There's syntax here, grammar. It's learning our language structure and trying to match it." Learning. That word still gives me chills. Have any of you ever heard something trying to learn how to speak? Have you ever felt like something was studying you while you slept? Because that's what the next week was like. The sound got more complex every night, started incorporating new tones, new rhythms, and some of us, the ones who spent the most time listening, trying to decode it, we started having the dreams. The dreams were always the same. You're walking through the forest past Gales Creek, following deer trails that somehow feel familiar even though you've never been on them before. The trees get thicker, older, until the canopy blocks out the sky and you're moving through green twilight. And then you reach the clearing. In the center of the clearing is a hole, not a cave, a hole, perfectly round, going straight down into the earth like someone took a giant drill bit to the world. The edges are smooth, almost polished, and when you look down into it, you can see your own face reflected back from somewhere impossibly deep. But your reflection is wrong. Its mouth is moving, making shapes, trying to speak, but no sound comes out. Then you hear the sound rising up from the hole, and you understand that your reflection has been practicing, learning, waiting for the day it can climb out and take your place, speaking with your voice, wearing your face, but serving something else entirely. I know this sounds insane. I know how it sounds. But all 7 of us in the Sound Hunters group had the same dream, every single night for a week, and we weren't the only ones. On day 9, people started disappearing. Not dramatically. Small-town disappearances never are. Jessica Moreau, who worked at the campus bookstore, just didn't show up for her shift. Her roommate said she'd gone for a walk the night before and never came back. Then it was Dave Kowalski from the hardware store. His wife found his truck parked at the end of Gales Creek Road, keys still in the ignition, but no sign of Dave. The police started a search, but here's the thing about searching for someone in the Oregon Coast Range. There are thousands of square miles of forest out there. Deep forest, old forest, the kind where you can walk 20 feet off a trail and lose it forever. They found Dave's footprints leading into the woods, but after about 100 yards, the trail just stopped, like he'd walked into the air. By day 11, we'd lost 8 people. All of them had been part of the groups actively searching for the sound source. All of them had been experiencing the dreams. And Marcus was starting to change. I noticed it first when we met at his apartment to review the latest recordings. He kept tilting his head when he listened to the sound, like he was trying to catch some frequency the rest of us couldn't hear. His eyes had gotten darker, more distant, and when he spoke, there were these little pauses between words, like he was translating thoughts from some other language. "I think I know what it wants," he said that night, his voice flat and strange. "It's not trying to communicate with us, it's trying to become us, one by one, until there's enough of them to make the crossing." "The crossing?" Sarah asked, but Marcus just stared at the wall and didn't answer. That was the last time I saw Marcus as Marcus. Look, I need you to understand something. If you're watching this video because you're curious about paranormal mysteries, because you like being scared, please stop now. Click on something else. Watch cat videos. Go live your life. Because what I'm about to tell you isn't entertainment. It's a warning. And if you're from anywhere in the Pacific Northwest, if you live near old-growth forest, if you've ever heard sounds in the night that didn't quite make sense, you need to know what's out there. The sound stopped on day 13. Just like that, complete silence. The media declared the mystery solved, probably a faulty compressor somewhere. Case closed. The university sent out a statement saying their physics team had collaborated with experts to identify the most likely cause, and everyone seemed relieved to have a boring explanation. But 4 of the sound hunters never came home, including Marcus. We found Marcus 3 days later, about a mile into the woods past Gales Creek. He was standing in a small clearing, completely motionless, facing a Douglas fir that had to be at least 200 years old. When we called his name, he turned toward us, and that's when I knew. His eyes were wrong, still brown, still the same shape, but the intelligence behind them was alien, ancient, patient in a way human intelligence never is. And when he smiled, I saw that his teeth had changed. They were sharper, more pointed, like someone had filed them down to make room for something else. "The sound worked," he said, but it wasn't Marcus's voice. It was the same pitch, the same timbre, but the rhythm was off, like someone playing a recording at the wrong speed. We've been calling for so long, and finally someone answered. Finally someone listened. That's when I ran. Left Sarah and the others standing there and crashed through the underbrush toward the road like a coward. I could hear them shouting behind me, and then screaming, and then nothing at all. Just the normal forest sounds. Birds, wind in the trees, the distant rush of Gales Creek. I made it back to town, called the police, led them to the spot where we'd found Marcus. But the clearing was empty. No footprints, no signs of a struggle, nothing. Just that ancient Douglas fir and the kind of deep forest silence that felt like being watched. The official report said the missing students had probably gotten lost in the woods and fallen into one of the old mining shafts. Case closed. The families held memorial services. Life went on. But I knew the truth. Something had been calling to us through the sound. Something old and patient and hungry. And now it had what it needed. 4 human templates, 4 sets of memories and mannerisms and speech patterns to practice with. 4 perfect disguises for the next phase of whatever plan it had been working on for centuries. I left Forest Grove the day after graduation, moved to California, tried to forget, got a job, got married, had a normal life for 9 years. I almost convinced myself it had all been some kind of shared psychotic episode. Stress from finals week combined with mass hysteria. Almost. 3 weeks ago, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. Just 4 words. The sound is back. I drove up to Forest Grove last weekend, told my wife it was a college reunion, parked on Gales Creek Road and walked into the woods, following trails that felt familiar, even though I'd sworn I'd never go back there. The forest was different, quieter, more watchful, and deep in the trees, so faint I might have imagined it, I heard something that made my blood freeze. Voices, human voices, calling to each other through the darkness, but the words were wrong. The rhythm was off, like people who'd learned to speak by listening to recordings, and I recognized one of them. Marcus, or something wearing Marcus's voice, still out there after 9 years, still practicing. I ran back to my car, drove straight home without stopping, but I can't stop thinking about what I heard, what it means. Because if they're still there, still learning, still growing stronger, what happens when they decide they're ready? What happens when they've perfected their disguises and start walking back into town? I've been researching, trying to find other cases like Forest Grove, and I found them. Taos, New Mexico, with their mysterious hum that's been going on for decades. Windsor, Ontario, with their industrial drone that nobody can quite locate. Tiny towns across the country where strange sounds appear for weeks or months, drawing attention, attracting listeners, then suddenly stop. And in every case, people go missing. Not many, just enough to provide the templates, the personalities, the human masks for whatever's been waiting in the deep places of the world. What if the Forest Grove sound wasn't unique? What if it was just one note in a larger symphony, a coordinated effort happening all across the country? What if something has been systematically studying us, learning us, preparing to replace us one small town at a time? I don't know how to stop it. I don't know if it can be stopped, but I know it's still happening. Right now, somewhere, there's a town just like Forest Grove where people are lying in bed, listening to sounds they can't explain, having dreams of holes in the ground and reflections that move on their own. If that's your town, please, don't go looking for the source. Don't try to record it or analyze it or decode it. Don't be like us. Don't listen too closely, because it's listening back. And once it hears you, really hears you, you become part of its collection, part of its plan. And if you see someone you know acting just a little bit different, speaking just a little bit wrong, smiling with teeth that seem too sharp, run. Don't try to help them. Don't try to save them. Just run and hope it hasn't learned your voice yet. The sound is spreading, and it's getting better at being human. Like and subscribe if you made it through.